10 million people worldwide are living with Parkinson's and 60,000 are in the U.S.
Mayo Clinic researchers at the hospital are defining a new type of memory loss in older adults, and it is different than Alzheimer's disease.
As reported in JAMA Network Open, the number of children diagnosed with ADHD rose from 6.1% in 1997 to 10.2% by 2016.
We're noticing a trend that IQ levels are through the floor. They're not going up. We're also noticing that both children and adults are suffering with issues with the ability to focus.
You get out of life what you put into it, the adage goes. The current generation has seen a dramatic increase in neuro-linked toxicity, and experts predict that the prevalence of cognitive impairments and decline could reach over 70% worldwide due to our diet and the impact of environmental factors.
The study looked at data on the number of children diagnosed with ADHD between 1997 and 2016. The percentage rose from about 6% to 10%, and it increased in both boys and girls.
Dementia is just one of many leading neurodegenerative diseases. Others include Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, in children.
At 68 years old, he's bedridden and doesn't recognize his wife or daughters.
It's very hard to watch. And it's very hard. I don't know how my mom does it because I know how hard it is for me, and I can only imagine how hard it is for her.
However, no one seems to be doing anything to stop the current crisis. And what's worse is that the global availability of these brain-wasting substances has increased by more than 50%. This bodes poorly for the future, suggesting an impending catastrophe.
And as a matter of fact, I was looking at a statistic. And there's about 55 million people worldwide with dementia. And they're expecting that number to increase by 40 to 50%, especially here in America, in the next 16 years, which is in 2040.
For what it's worth, we should be grateful that there are still outspoken voices fighting for truth in the world.
Today will be no different. Today we're going to talk about the foods that are destroying your brain and lowering your IQ. Not only yours, but your children and your future grandchildren's as well, too.
In this video, Dr. Bobby Price issues a strong warning about certain foods that could be harmful to our brains. Knowledge is power, but it's useless if we don't put it to use. The worst-case scenario would be our brains wholly fried. This doesn't sound good in the slightest. Let's get started with 4 foods that are so toxic to the brain that they should be avoided entirely or limited.
It's literally killing brain cells every day.
You might be surprised to hear this, but fried foods do more than just raise your cholesterol and fat levels. They also threaten our brains. The fact that most fast food joints and even some of our household reuse oils is probably unsurprising. The canon has it that the more heat an oil is subjected to, the higher its toxicity. It's that simple.
And most restaurant owners in the beginning will try to use a healthier form of oil, but what they'll notice is how expensive it is to keep up with that because we live in nations where people love everything fried.
When oil is heated, it undergoes chemical changes, releasing free radicals and harmful compounds such as aldehydes and trans fats.
We have what's called a brain-blood barrier that prevents many things from crossing over into the brain because the brain needs to be that protected.
These toxic invaders bombard your brain neurons, causing oxidative stress in them, similar to how rust corrodes metal. The harmful compounds also inflict inflammation, which can further disrupt cognitive function. Neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia are heavily linked to this. So while saving oil may appear to be a wise decision, it is best to give yourself a new batch each time.
In the beginning, we'll try to use a healthier form of oil.
If you're dining out, you might want to rethink before ordering food overly cooked in oil. These are the finest foods currently, but sometimes you have to take the long way to achieve the truly good things in life, particularly when it comes to your health. Guess what comes next on the list? Alcohol.
It's going to be like this confusing conversation because quite often we've been told that, oh, one of these a day is actually good for your heart health. But come to find out, the studies have proven that that is absolutely not true. And that is alcohol.
Dr. Bobby Price made it pretty clear alcohol's not doing your body any favours and might be better left on the shelf. Sure, it's tempting to keep the party going, but if you want to keep your brain in top shape, maybe think twice before pouring that next glass.
There's no amount of alcohol that is actually healthy for you.
Alcohol harms the brain by interfering with communication pathways, affecting the structure and function of neurons. When consumed, alcohol can disrupt the balance of neurotransmitters, resulting in impaired coordination and memory loss.
And you don't need a study to confirm that. We know that if you drink enough, you get tipsy. Now, that's a nice name for neurotoxicity.
It suppresses the central nervous system, slowing brain activity and impairing its ability to process information.
Okay, so alcohol is definitely one of the things that not only destroys your brain and lowers your IQ, but it actually shrinks the size of your brain.
The effects are all very bizarre. So what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, but it also, the more and more you drink, what you'll notice is that your entire body will start to reek of alcohol, and the more and more you drink, you'll get to a point where your body just literally passes out.
Refined carbs and added sugars. This might be the thing that sets you off if alcohol wasn't already a problem. Bread, pizza, pasta, noodles, and pretty much any other white flour product that has undergone extensive preparation and processing are examples of these refined carbohydrates.
Any kind of white flour products, all of those things have been refined, which means that it's been highly and ultra processed.
As Dr. Bobby pointed out, they have had all of their minerals extracted and replaced with synthetic minerals to enhance them. Overall, they significantly raise your body's sugar levels, as do their counterparts, added sugars. Added sugars are synthetic sugar sources found in sodas, energy drinks, processed foods, and refined carbohydrates. In summary, here's how Dr. Bobby identifies added sugars.
So when I say added sugar, I'm talking about sugar that you do not consume in a whole fruit or vegetable.
How then do these substances harm our brains, as well as our other bodily systems, as is the case with hyperglycemia and diabetes mellitus? Let's hear how Dr. Bobby describes it.
That's added sugar. That sugar will decrease your lifespan. But not only will it decrease your lifespan, it will lead to brain damage and ultimately lead to dementia. As a matter of fact, the new name for dementia is type 3 diabetes. Look it up. Type 3 diabetes. The reason why they call it type 3 diabetes because it's insulin resistance in the brain.
That's the simplest description. Chronic high blood sugar levels, which are frequently associated with diabetes, can cause vascular damage, reducing blood flow to the brain and raising the risk of neurodegenerative diseases like stroke and dementia. Excessive sugar consumption can reduce brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essential for learning and memory. It can also promote the formation of harmful compounds known as advanced glycation end products, which damage neurons and impair cognitive function. These sound even more terrifying than alcohol, and at this point, you're probably furious. Well, blame Dr. Bobby for spilling the health facts. Our hands are clean. Heavy metals are next and last on our list.
Heavy metals like mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium.
Heavy metals. Given the current high levels of industrialization, it should come as no surprise that many plants are susceptible to heavy metal contamination from the soil. Examples of this include arsenic, which can be found in rice, especially during processing; cadmium, which can be found in mushrooms, leafy greens; cocoa, root vegetables, such as potatoes, which can be contaminated by industrial pollutants or artificial manure; and fish, which can contain high levels of mercury.
With mercury, you'll find them in fish, a lot of the fish. You'll find them in your dental fillings, if you got dental fillings a while ago.
This is why there is increased awareness about where food supplies are purchased, and more government action is required to eliminate traces of any food contaminated with these heavy metals as a result of raising food stock in toxic environments. Metals such as mercury, lead, and cadmium can accumulate in brain tissue and interfere with neurotransmitter systems, causing neurons to communicate less effectively. Chronic exposure to these metals can cause memory loss, cognitive impairment, and an increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
The really scary part about this, our children are being exposed to this. And a lot of our children are having heavy metals toxicity because this may be next to their daycare.
Removing heavy metals from food can be difficult, but some methods can help reduce exposure. To reduce metal levels, thoroughly wash and peel fruits and vegetables. Boil and drain rice, and soak rice overnight before cooking. A varied diet, including low-mercury seafood, such as salmon and sardines, and purchasing organic produce can all help to reduce risks.
These are things that when people experience them, they take them for granted and say to themselves, well, you know, I'm getting a little older. But the real problem is that every day you're giving yourself doses that is literally killing brain cells every time.
As Dr. Bobby hinted, avoiding all of these is difficult. And even if we do our best, we'll have to rely on therapies like detox therapies to get rid of some of the toxins we can't always avoid.
You literally have to go through a detoxification program the same way somebody would be addicted to an illicit drug to get off of these foods. It's literally that difficult.
As you can see, we have exposed you to all 4 of the foods that are seriously harming our brains, which Dr. Bobby has connected to the rising number of children's ADD and ADHD, as well as severe cases of dementia and other neurodegenerative diseases.
It's because knowledge isn't power. All of this free content that I'm giving you here on YouTube, that's not power. It's the application of knowledge is what makes you powerful. So those people who apply the knowledge, those are the people who are wise, and those are the people who are powerful in their own individual rights.
What do you think about Bobby Price's belief? Let me know in the comments below.